Appendix 1, Part 2 of the History of the Inquisition of Spain, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. History of the Inquisition of Spain, Volume 1, by Henry Charles LEA. Appendix 1, List of Tribunals, Part 2. Leon. In 1501 we hear of inquisitors of the province of Leon, whose district cannot have been confined to that province, for Ferdinand, writing September 2nd to Cousin Duke, tells him that they have occasion to go to his city of Coria, Extremadura, and asks that they may occupy his house while there. In 1514, also, there is allusion to the receiver and alguazil of the Inquisition of Leon. Apparently the term is a synonym of the Tribunal of Valladolid. Lerida. The provinces of Huesca in Aragon and Lerida and Urgel in Catalonia were united as an inquisitorial district at least as early as 1490, when we hear of the inquisitors of Huesca and Lerida taking testimony. In 1498 a letter of Ferdinand, October 8th, announces the transfer of Urgel to Barcelona. Allusions to the tribunal continue to occur in the correspondence of Ferdinand, who in 1502 called away the inquisitor, as there was so little to do. Saragossa would not attend to heresy, and only the financial officials need be left. It was not discontinued, however. In 1514 there was an attempt to murder the inquisitor, Canon Antist, but in 1519 he is still addressed as Inquisitor of Lerida. In this same year, however, Charles V, in a letter of January 22nd, speaks of the tribunals of Huesca, Tarazona, and Lerida having been united with that of Saragossa, and when the people of Huesca complained, in the Cortes of Saragossa, of their citizens being carried away for trial, he ordered, under pain of 1,000 florins, that no one should interfere with the jurisdiction of the Saragossa tribunal. October 9th an inspector reported that there was no need of a receiver or other officials there, whereupon they were all dismissed. In 1532, however, the inquisitors of Saragossa undertook to appoint a receiver for Lerida, but were told by the Suprema to cancel it as this was a function of the crown. Logroño. In 1570, as we have seen, the tribunal of Calahorra was shifted to Logroño, which in 1690 defines its territory as the whole kingdom of Navarre, the bishopric of Calahorra and La Calzada, Biscay, Guipuzcoa, Burgos along the mountains of Oca, and the sea-coast as far as San Vicente de la Barquera, thus comprising the modern provinces of Navarre, Guipuzcoa, Biscay, Santander, Alava, Logroño, and a large part of Burgos. Llerena. Originally, Extremadura and Leon were combined. In 1500, Enrique Pays is receiver for the sees of Plasencia, Coria, and Badajoz, and the province of Leon. In 1509, Ximenes assigned to Lerida as its district, Plasencia, Coria, Badajoz, and the lands of the military orders, but as late as 1516 it is spoken of as the Inquisition of Leon, Plasencia, Coria, and Badajoz. Its original seat was Llerena, but in 1516 it was transferred to Plasencia, and the receiver was ordered to sell the houses purchased at Llerena for the prison, because others will be wanted for the purpose at Plasencia. It was migratory, however, and in 1520 the people of Ciudad Rodrigo, Coria, and Herida were notified that it was about to leave Plasencia, and wherever it went accommodations must be provided for lodgment, audience chamber, and prisons. Finally, it settled permanently at Llerena, and towards the close of the 16th century Zapata speaks of it as the first tribunal of the kingdom, with the widest jurisdiction. Madrid. See Corte. Medina del Campo. The great importance of Medina del Campo as a centre of trade rendered inevitable its selection as the seat of a tribunal at an early period. In 1486 it was fully furnished with 3 inquisitors and an assessor, the abbot of Medina serving as ordinary. In 1516 we find it incorporated with Valladolid. When the court moved to Valladolid, the buildings of the Inquisition were wanted for its accommodation, and the tribunal, in June 1601, was unceremoniously sent to Medina, where Dr. Martin de Bustos was turned out of his house to lodge it. Its stay was short, for in 1605, as we have seen, it was transferred to Burgos, and there is no later trace of a tribunal at Medina. Murcia, also known as Cartagena. See also Cuenca. Murcia was a seat of one of the early tribunals, comprising the sees of Murcia and Cartagena. Cuenca, which was attached to it in the redistribution by Ximenes in 1509, was separated about 1520. Oran, some time after its conquest by Ximenes, was placed under the jurisdiction of Murcia. The see of Orihuela, although belonging to Valencia, on its suppression about 1510, was united to that of Cartagena, and thus fell under the tribunal of Murcia, where it remained after the restoration to episcopal honours in 1564. The tribunal of Orihuela naturally followed the same course on its suppression. Navarre. After the conquest of Navarre, in 1512, a tribunal was established in Pampeluna, where it did not long remain. Then for a short period it was transferred to Estella. In 1515 we find it in Tudela, where Ferdinand orders the Archdeacon of Almazon to visit it as it is in much need of reform, and soon afterwards he asks for a delegation of episcopal power, as Tudela was only a deanery. It was quartered in the convent of San Francisco, to relieve which, in 1518, the Suprema ordered appropriate buildings to be obtained. In 1521 and 1522 there was talk of removing it to Pampeluna. Then it was extended over Calahorra. Soon afterwards they were separated, but finally, in 1540, they were united and so remained. Soon after the transfer to Logroño we find the tribunal describing itself as "en todo el Reino de Navarra, Obispado de Calahorra y la Calzada y su distrito." Navy. See Army. Oran. Paramo tells us that when Ximenes conquered Oran he commissioned Fray Yedra as inquisitor there. Lorente places this in 1516 and calls the inquisitor Martin de Baedecar, Ximenes' provisor. At that time, however, there could have been no tribunal there, for July 9, 1516, the governor Lope Hurtado de Mendoza was ordered to discover and punish those who were impeding the sale of property for the Inquisition, work which would have been entrusted to the tribunal had there been one. By this time it had probably been suppressed and placed under Murcia. Orihuela. According to Lorente, Ferdinand, August 7, 1507, united the tribunal of the bishopric of Orihuela to Valencia, which would infer its previous existence. It was reorganized in 1515, when Bishop Mercader appointed Pedro de los Rios as inquisitor, and he was sent there with a staff of officials, and the magistrates were ordered to provide quarters for el tiempo que fuere menester. This indicates that the tribunal was not expected to be permanent, and it was probably not long afterwards that it was united with Murcia. Osuna. In 1488, among the presentations to Brebens is one of Pedro Sanchez, qualified as Inquisitor of Osuna. Such tribunal can only have been short-lived, and must speedily have been incorporated with that of Seville. Pampeluna. See Navarre. Perpignan. August 9, 1495, an auto de fe was celebrated in Perpignan, but it was held by the inquisitors of Barcelona. In 1518 there was only a commissioner there, but in 1524 there was a tribunal, with Juan Navardu as inquisitor and Antonio Salateda as secretary. It was not permanent, however. In 1566, when Soto Salazar was sent on his visitation to Barcelona, he was instructed to ascertain and report promptly details for the benefit of the inquisitor about to be sent to Perpignan to reside for the future, and what officials should be provided for him. It is doubtful whether this intention was carried out; in any event it was but transitory. Plasencia. See Llerena. Santiago. See Galicia. Saragossa. Established in 1484, the tribunal gradually absorbed all the minor tribunals, but parted with Teruel to Valencia. See Babastro, Calatayud, Daroca, Jaca, Lereda, Tarazona, Teruel. Segovia. Segovia claimed the honour of being among the earliest cities, after Seville, to possess a tribunal, but there was no representative from there among the inquisitors assembled to frame the Instructions of 1484, owing doubtless to the resistance of the bishop Juan Arias Davila. One must have been established soon afterwards, for, in 1490, the prisoners accused of the murder of the Santo Niño de la Guardia were on trial there, when Torquemada transferred them to Avila. See Avila. In the redistribution by Ximenes in 1509, Segovia was incorporated with Valladolid, but in 1544 and again in 1599 the inquisitors of Toledo included in their enumerations of their jurisdictions. Sigüenza. A tribunal was early established in Sigüenza which must have been busy if we may believe the statement that on auto de fe in 1494 it relaxed 149 victims to the secular arm. In 1506 Deza dismissed the officials for the reason that it was about to be united with Toledo, a merger ratified by Ximenes in 1509. Toledo neglected it and it was transferred to Cuenca. In the 18th century there would appear to be some kind of subordinate tribunal there, for about 1750 Saragossa, in a report of its personnel, states that one of its 5 inquisitors is assisting at Sigüenza. Tarazona. A tribunal established here in the early period was merged into that of Saragossa in 1519. Tarragona. When in 1643 the inquisitors of Barcelona were ejected, they were, after some delay, sent to open their tribunal at Tarragona, where they remained until the suppression of the Catalan rebellion in 1652. Teruel. In 1485 a tribunal was established in Teruel after some resistance. At what time it was transferred to Valencia does not appear, but a cedula of October 2, 1502, is addressed to the inquisitors of Valencia residing in Teruel and Albarracin, showing that it was then subordinate to Valencia. In 1518 it was discontinued and the district was subject to the direct jurisdiction of the Valencian tribunal, but Cardinal Adrian, by a provision of November 21 of the same year, transferred it to Saragossa, and then, March 3, 1519, restored it to Valencia. This was felt by Aragon as a grievance, and at the Cortes of Monzon, in 1533, it asked that Teruel and Albarracin should be restored to the Saragossa tribunal, but the request was peremptorily refused, and they remained subject to Valencia. Toledo. In 1485 the tribunal of Ciudad Real was transferred to Toledo. At first the limits of its district seemed not to be clearly defined, for in 1489 the inquisitors were told to go to Guadalajara and Ferdinand ordered the local authorities to show them favor and allow them to make arrests. See Corte, Cuenca, Segovia, Sigüenza, Valladolid for sundry changes in the district. In 1565 the official designation is the city and archbishopric of Toledo, the city and bishopric of Sigüenza, and the bishoprics of Avila and Segovia, which apparently remained permanent, except the detachment of Madrid. Tortosa. For some reason the bishopric of Tortosa, although part of Catalonia, was subject to the tribunal of Valencia. When in 1697 Vendome captured Barcelona, the tribunal emigrated to Tortosa and established itself in the Colegio Imperial. Although peace was declared soon afterwards, it remained in Tortosa at least until 1700 and presumably stayed until the conclusion of the War of Secession, when it was reinstated in Barcelona in 1715. Tudela. See Navarre. Valencia. The old Inquisition of Valencia was reorganized in 1484, and continued to the end. As seen above, it parted with Orihuela to Murcia, obtained Teruel and Albarracin from Saragossa, and Tortosa from Barcelona. Valladolid. A tribunal was assigned to Valladolid in 1485, but did not get into working order until 1488. After this it was suspended, to be revived in 1499, as appears from a letter of Isabella, December 24, 1498. The northern provinces of Spain were comparatively free from heresy, and Ximenes, in his reorganization of 1509, assigned to Valladolid the enormous district comprising the sees of Burgos, Osma, Valencia, Segovia, Avila, Salamanca, Zamora, Leon, Oviedo, and Astorga, and the abbeys of Valladolid, Medina del Campo, and Sahagun. In 1516 the enumeration is the same except the omission of Zamora and the addition of Ciudad Rodrigo and Calahorra. Roughly speaking, it may be assumed to comprise the whole of the provinces of Old Castile, Leon, and Asturias. Valdes, August 8, 1560, repeated April 12, 1562, made over the whole of this to Toledo, but the grant can only have been temporary, for in 1565 the Toledan inquisitors described themselves as of the city and archbishoprics of Toledo, the city and bishopric of Siganza, with the bishoprics of Avila and Segovia, and in 1579 we find the inquisitors of Valladolid styling themselves inquisitors of the kingdoms of Castile and Leon and the principality of Asturias. This enormous district it continued to retain, subject to the easternmost portion detached to Calahorra, or Logrono, and to its translation in 1601 to Medina del Campo, and thence to Burgos, from which it was returned to Valladolid, probably about 1630. Xeres. In 1495 Rodrigo Locaro is described as inquisitor of Xeros. In 1499 the sovereigns appointed Alonso de Guevara inquisitor of Cadiz and Xeres. The tribunal continued there for some time. In 1515 Ferdinand alludes to Luis de Riba Martin, our late receiver in the Inquisition of Xeres, who in dying had left to the treasury a legacy of 30,000 emires for the relief of his conscience. I have met no later reference to it, and it probably was soon afterwards merged into the Tribunal of Seville. End of Appendix 1, Part 2.